Last night, we gathered here for the proper liturgy for Maundy Thursday, and we did this beautiful, intimate act of love and charity and service. We gently washed one another's feet, just right here in the beginning, in 4 different stations. Then we made our way to the altar to celebrate the Eucharist. And while we were washing feet, the choir sang this beautiful setting, Durafles ubi caritas. Where true charity and love are, God is there. So that helped us as we did this beautiful act together. Then we made our way to the altar to celebrate the Eucharist. And while we were focused on the Eucharist, we also knew something was shifting. And so there's this liturgical melancholy that begins to hit as we make our way through the Eucharistic prayer. This movement from ubi caritas et amor to the table, and then to what we know comes next, which is, well, today. We celebrated the Eucharist, and then we finished enjoying the Eucharist together. It was the first time we've closed the gates and received at the rail since the pandemic began, and that was a beautiful experience as well. We concluded the Eucharist and then began the stripping of the altar, and that is where we liturgically begin to remove everything that's at the altar that reminds us of the Eucharist and to take it out. During that, David sang beautifully the entire 22nd Psalm, the one that we just recited responsively. He chanted the whole thing. And it was beautiful, but I have to say there was almost like a little electrical storm in my brain because I was listening to David sing the psalm, and yet at the same time I'm hearing Ubi caritas et amor Deus ibi est. The entire time we're taking things off of the altar to artistically prepare Jesus for his crucifixion and his burial. The psalm, my God, why have you forsaken me?" is being sung. And yet it feels like somehow this is God's response to all of that pain. Ubi caritas et amor Deus ibi est. And we come today for the proper liturgy of Good Friday, and we hear the whole horrible story again. We hear the whole horrible story about the way the world treats love and charity. Love and charity incarnate. We hear the whole narrative about what happens when fear and political and religious power intersect. People generally die. And ensure Jesus dies. Last night we talked about what is this? What is this thing? Of all the choices that the creator of the universe has to stop this, to redeem the world, to draw us into right relationship with God, what is this death? What is this intimate foot washing and death on a cross? One theological word that we talked about last night that may help us wrestle with it is kenosis. It's God's self-emptying. So we say as Christians that God emptied God's self, emptied God of God's power into the person of Jesus. And then Jesus in turn empties himself for the sake of the world. And he does it quite specifically with that particular group of friends, washes their feet, then says, "This is my body, this is my blood," and then does it universally for the world by allowing the world to take its best shot to see if it can kill charity and love. You know, there's different ways the way you think about this in the Christian faith. There are those in the Christian faith who say that Jesus died for your sin, as Jesus is paying some penalty, some price, some guilt that needs to be remedied, as if God's self cannot look upon sin. But I confess to you that I disagree with that understanding of the work of Jesus. I don't believe God had to do anything. And I don't believe there is anything that God cannot look upon. God looks upon our sin every single day. Because most of the time, it's all God's got to look upon is our sin. So then what does it mean that Jesus died for the sins of the world? Maybe it's not to pay a bill. Maybe it's not to punish. But maybe it's simply God's ongoing, perpetual response to sin. Every single time. Every single time sin, it prevails in the background like an electrical storm. Ubi caritas et amor, Deus ibi est. And all the pain in your life and mine, some of it our own fault, some of it someone else's fault, some of it no one's fault at all, just the world is a broken place. God's response is always ubi caritas et amor. Every time. Charity and love. Charity and love. Give it your best shot. See if you can beat it. See if you can defeat the power of charity and love. So today, we told a whole gruesome story. We heard it sung to us. What a beautiful way to tell the tale. Maybe we hear it differently that way. We hear the whole gruesome story about the thing that binds all of us when our fear and our power intersect, and all of the pain and suffering that is a result of that. Today, we hear the story of the world taking its best shot and defeating ubi caritas et amor, Deus ibi est. And we wait for God's response.